Good morning, everybody. Well, immigration, refugees, Justin Trudeau, and murder. Whew. That seems to be quite the current political quagmire for Mr. Trudeau. So, Paul Wells, remember Paul Wells, Bernier supporters, is the stupidest people on Twitter. He's interviewing Justin Trudeau. He gets the dubious honor of interviewing our worst PM. And well, here's what they're talking about. They're talking about Syrian refugees and the murder of a 13-year-old Vancouver girl. And well, we'll see how Mr. Trudeau reacts. Here we go.
A few that we haven't asked about before. And so I'm going to pass along a few questions that came from Maclean's readers. One is asking what you have to say about the arrest in British Columbia of Ibrahim Ali, who is a Syrian refugee, following the murder of a teenage girl named Marrisa Shen.
Obviously, it's devastating news for her family, for her friends. It's a terrible tragedy. Anytime someone is murdered, it's a terrible thing. I trust our justice system. I trust our system to go through its processes to both apply consequences to this and to make sure that we're thinking about how we continue to keep people safe.
A lot of people say that, some people say that if it hadn't been for the surge in Syrian refugees after the 2015 election, guys like this guy would not be here.
I'm not one of those people who says that.
Got a little bit of time.
No, what a waste of it. What a trash heap of a prime minister right there. You're not one of those people who says that? Okay, well, you were warned in 2016, sir. And here's the concern. The concerns, Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall asked Ottawa to suspend the Syrian refugee plan. This is 2016, right after the election, 2015, before we brought in 25,000 Syrian refugees before the end of the year. Remember that? So here's the introduction to the segment, and we'll get into Brad Wall's initial comments. But the statement is basically, we know that people are pretending to be refugees to get into other countries. This just happened, and one of those pretend refugees created a terrorist attack in Paris. Can we please vet these people correctly? And that was ignored, okay? So Trudeau knew the risks and ignored the risks, even when his premiers were telling him this is a bad idea and we need to take a much stronger, longer look at these refugees. Here we go.
Welcome back. The Liberal government, as you know, has committed to bringing over 25,000 Syrian refugees by the end of the year. But questions are being raised as to whether those refugees could perhaps pose a security risk. One of the attackers in Paris appears to have entered Europe posing as a refugee from Syria. Several U.S. states now say they won't accept any Syrians. And here at home, Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall has appealed to the Prime Minister to, at very least, slow down the process. So is increased security screening a legitimate concern? Will or can Saskatchewan refuse to accept Syrian refugees on the Prime Minister's timeline? Joining me now from Regina, Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall. Nice to see you, Premier.
Hi, Rosie.
Why did you decide to send this letter to the Prime Minister today?
Well, two reasons, really. The deadline, I think, is problematic. Not the fact that we want to accept refugees. The province of Saskatchewan, as a result of this issue really coming to the fore in the election campaign, we're already taking more. I think about 600 is the number, and certainly want to add more to that in terms of refugees from Syria. But I don't recall a time when a major refugee intake like this was driven by a deadline, and I think that's the concern. And I think everybody would forgive the Prime Minister if he were to say, look, the campaign promise was about a deadline. Let's make it about the refugees, but let's also make sure we get it right in terms of security and also settlement issues. And prior to the events in Paris, which I do think have caused some discussion and debate, notwithstanding the provenance or the countries of origin of all of those who did this terrible thing, I do think it's caused some debate. But even prior to that, we were talking to our mayors across Saskatchewan of the major cities and some settlement groups who are just worried about the timelines here. We have 45 days until there's a huge influx of refugees, and we just have to make sure that we get this right, both from a security standpoint and a settlement standpoint. Our letter today was to the Prime Minister.
Okay, I'm going to stop him there. Security standpoint is make sure these people are safe. Okay, make sure these people are not coming here to harm us, because that is a real threat. And it was shown in 2015 with the Paris attacks. They did exactly that. They came into the country as refugees, they took advantage, and then they murdered people as terrorists. The Manchester bombing did exactly the same thing, same MO, and we are still importing these refugees. So Justin Trudeau says that he trusts our justice system. I don't trust our justice system. And I'm going to show you why I don't trust our justice system. So here we go. Ibrahim Ali 28, charged with first-degree murder of Burnaby teen Marrisa Shen. The man arrived in Canada as a refugee from Syria just months before the 13-year-old was killed, say police. Investigators have not said how they identified him as a suspect. Okay, and there's an article here talking about the murder charge, Ibrahim Ali, and his standing in Canada, which is he has no standing in Canada. He is a refugee. He's not a citizen, and he should be deported, in my opinion. Okay, Windsor man sentenced related to indecent act at aquatic center. Well, let's dig in. Hassan al-Hadri pleaded guilty last month to the May 2016 incident. The defense was asking for a conditional discharge for the 38-year-old, but the Justice Lloyd Dean didn't believe that that would be in the public's best interest. He gave al-Hari a suspended sentence and 24 months of probation. Al-Hari pleaded guilty to assault and indecent act after he was caught masturbating, pleasuring himself in the shower area at the Windsor International Aquatic and Training Center in May 2016. He was also seen giving a young person a consensual back massage. Who says it was consensual? So this guy was jacking off and giving a young person a back massage? How young? How young? Because we have laws for that in Canada. Okay, back to the article. Al-Hari is a 37-year-old Syrian refugee who arrived in Canada just 3 months prior to the incident. Huh. Well, that's crazy, isn't it? We've got one Syrian refugee who killed a 13-year-old girl after sexually assaulting her, and another Syrian refugee who is masturbating at a public pool while giving a young person a consensual back massage. Thanks, Windsor. What else? We've got, here's the Edmonton Journal, teen girls weep as judge dismisses sexual assault charges from West Edmonton pool incident. Solomon Haj Solomon was arrested in February 2017 after several teenagers reported being touched by the man in the West Edmonton water park. He was acquitted of all charges against him, 6 counts of sexual assault and 6 counts of sexual contact with a child, in a provincial court ruling Friday morning. The witnesses, who were aged 13 to 15 at the time of the incident, gave varying descriptions of the man's head, facial hair, skin color, and age during the trial. One said he wore blue goggles, while another said he wore rainbow goggles in a zebra pattern. Pool security footage wasn't clear enough to identify whoever might have groped the girls, the judge said. And this is a headline, or this is a heading. Court reasoning about evidence regrettable, says Crown prosecutor. And then the line under this is, at least 2 of the girls in the courtroom cried and left with their mothers when the ruling was given. All right, still more. A very critical clash of cultures. Plea deal over honor killing threats saves Syrian couple from deportation. Yay, they don't have to go back to Syria. Because, reasons. Quote from the article, a Syrian refugee couple who threatened their adult daughter with an honor killing for dating a Canadian man have made a plea deal with the New Brunswick prosecutor that will save them from possible deportation back to their war-ravaged homeland. Ahmad Ayoub, 52, and his wife, Faten, 48, were freed this week after 72 days in jail after pleading guilty to uttering threats and a summary conviction offense after being sentenced to time served. So, if you date a Canadian, we're going to kill you. Oh, no, we're not. No, sorry, we're not. Not if you're going to send us back to Syria. We won't kill you. No, that's fine. Sorry. Ha ha ha. We're just going to go back and live in British Columbia, or not British Columbia. Where is it? New Brunswick, until, more Syrians get here and honor killing's fine. Hey? This is from Germany. Child 10 raped by elementary students on school trip. And, for the 2 11-year-old accomplices, 1 Syrian, 1 Afghan, other schools have been found in other districts. Great, I hope the 2 accomplices find some other Syrian rapists to join up with. And what happens, back to the article, and what happens to the main culprit, who is even 1 month younger than the victim? The investigative authorities have not arranged a medical age assessment. The boy is recognizably still a child and thus punishable by punishment. The 10-year-old Afghan, who's also lived in Iran, has always hewed other classmates or stood in the way before the act, so he was already behaving conspicuous. According to his class teacher, however, not sexually and not to the later victim. The Youth Welfare Office of the district has ordered a psychological report from the Child Protection Ambulance of the Shere, I think that's the city. This is a German paper, so it's translated thanks to the Google Translate. The authorities assume that the perpetrator can no longer attend a normal school. Also, the victim child does not want to go back to his old class after the information that was brought out that he was raped on the school trip. And let's just do one more from England just for fun. Woman 24 fights for life after being ambushed and stabbed by 3 child Syrian refugees who followed her after arguing with her at a supermarket in Germany. And I'm not going to go through the details. I think that's enough. So, Oh, okay. So here's another one. 47 persons and counting. Halton cops make arrest in alleged perch snatching ring. Investigators say an arrest marks the beginning of the end of an alleged perch snatching ring operated by, as police describe them, non-status, quote, Romani gypsies who do not speak fluent English, and they say more arrests are pending. In some cases, multiple offenders work in teams to distract the victim, bump their carts, or ask their assistance in a store parking lot, he told me. They also target seniors who are trusting and want to help people. So guys, be aware. Welcome to Canada. Tell these people to find somebody else to help them. Find a shop helper or something like that, because this is ridiculous. Okay, Brenda Stroke, I think that's how you say it, whatever, of Brampton, a refugee from the Czech Republic, has been charged with 3 counts of theft under $5,000, one of fraud under $5,000, and unauthorized use of credit cards. She was released on bail, must appear in Milton Court on April 3rd. Okay, and this is not necessarily a Syrian refugee, but I included it because gangs and groups of people who work together, that's a thing, and that's historical. That happens all through any major city, but gypsies working in tandem like that, coming to Canada, that hasn't been seen before. And I thought, I thought to illustrate just how great our justice system is and our refugee importing system is, these guys are finding work, guys. They're getting here and finding a job, right? There's lots of jobs for anybody who can fly in and just walk over the border. There's lots of Romani, gypsy, crime and theft rings that are hiring right now. I'm just saying. So if you're a Syrian refugee and you were brought over on Justin's timeline, the government probably doesn't know where you are. So maybe you're working in one of these theft rings. Maybe you are. Who knows? Maybe you're killing somebody in Vancouver. Who knows? So Justin Trudeau's government fails to properly monitor 50,000 Syrian refugees, and no reports have been done. And there's links in this article, and the link to this article will be in the description. And finally, the CBC is worried that the Syrian community will be scapegoated. So, quote, this is from CBC British Columbia. This is a tweet from CBC British Columbia. Syrian community fears scapegoating after man new to Canada charged with murder of Marrisa Shen. Yeah, well, he's not a Canadian, and he was a refugee brought here from the goodness of our hearts to help him, and he murders a little Canadian girl. Are you kidding me? And here's the news article archived. Syrian community fears scapegoating after man new to Canada charged with murder of Marrisa Shen. Yeah, well, maybe if they didn't murder Canadians, maybe there wouldn't be any scapegoating to go around. And here's the last thing. Ottawa exempts Syrian refugees from loan repayment. So, quote, the Liberal government said Thursday that it will exempt Syrian refugees from a rule that can burden impoverished newcomers with loans of up to $10,000 upon arrival. Critics say the government should expand that privilege to all asylum seekers so they're not forced to pay for the cost of their own flight to freedom. Yeah, well, giving $10,000 free to these people, as well as hotel stays and food and all of the other things, seems really inappropriate when you consider what they're doing to say thank you. Masturbating, assaulting people in pools, and murdering people says, hey, we'd like to be sent back to Syria now. So that's my morning video today, guys. Check out MaximeBernier.com, peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Thanks for watching.